Hi, I'm doing this video today as a little bit different part of my tarot series. It's not on a new or full moon or anything like that, but rather it's in a response to Anna, the Astral Lady Tarot, who just on July 4th put up a fun, light-hearted video on what makes her a cliche tarot reader. When I first saw her video, I just about spit my tea on the computer screen because I guess since the 1970s I've evolved into a cliche tarot reader. So I listened to her video for a second time and I wrote down the various points that she made about what makes you categorized as a cliche tarot reader. So periodically Brian's going to flip to my table, but for now we'll just stay here with these 11 points. So Anna spoke of a cliche tarot reader being someone with more than one version of a tarot, meaning multiple different decks made by different artists, authors, publishing companies, but they all have a similar theme. For example, the Rider-Waite-Smith Classic Tarot. There are multiple versions of it out there, and I chuckled because Anna talked about the several that she has, and yes, I have the Centennial and I like it very much. And I have to say, Anna, that the Albano Waite is the one I like the best, because if you lay out various RWS decks, you'll find that in later iterations, a lot of the subtle symbolic detail is in fact gone. And for example, if you look at the little hobo parcel on the Fool, there is in fact a falcon there, and the falcon in the Albano Waite, you can still see its eye. Later iterations, the falcon sort of disappears and looks like one of the folds in the satchel. So yes, there are many versions of the original Pamela Colman Smith. Many are recolored, some of them are recolored to the traditions, others are not. But I enjoyed that you have, like myself, multiple RWS decks and Thoth decks and Marseille decks. I have a lovely collection of Marseille decks, and I would like to thank you for the suggestion for the gentleman in Dijon who has made the limited edition 1709 deck, because I just got a chance to order that, so I'm thrilled. Anyway, the second point for the cliche tarot reader is having backup versions of exactly the same deck. And again, I had a good chuckle. I have things like multiple copies of Tarot of a Moon Garden and Daughters of the Moon, multiple copies of the Shadowland Lenormand, but it goes without saying that you're absolutely right. We have, we never know when we're going to lose a deck. I have a Havanese puppy. I just received a gorgeous Lenormand from a gentleman in Germany, and like 2 days of owning it, somehow the puppy got a hold of it, so I had to reorder it. And it was kind of a synchronous or serendipity thing, because I expanded that particular set. But you're absolutely right. They wear out. They're just part and parcel of who we are. So multiple copies, especially in indie decks where there are limited runs, and you never know what's going to happen. So that's my excuse anyway. I have to say that, given that, I'm just going to do a sidebar here. Brian, if you could flip the camera for a moment. On my phone, I want to point out that this is a library software, and in the corner you're going to see the fact that I have 1,012 entries in my tarot and oracle software. I have been collecting, you can flip the camera, I've been collecting since 1976. I've owned tarot since before that, but tarot was one of the reasons that I went ahead and did a degree in psychology and parapsychology. Ultimately, I was going into medicine, but I switched. Again, life stepped in and messed up my university, and kaboom. So I've been studying Jungian psychology and archetypes, and my career has unfolded, the knowledge has unfolded since the mid-70s, and I'm Indigenous. So I am Algonquin, which is Anishinaabe, and as a First Nations person in Canada, tarot isn't really a big part of our cultural thing, so this paradigm for me was big going to university, and I felt like a closet reader. So does this make me cliche? Maybe, but I have all these decks, the 1,012, and I know that there's more coming, as my poor husband grimaces over off camera. You can't see him there, but he's actually, no, that's not true. He's my biggest supporter, and I'm actually working on one, an Indigenous themed oracle and a tarot. When they get released, I don't know, but so yeah, I'm trying to practice what I preach and pay for. So your third point was a tattoo. There we part company. I have an autoimmune disease, so if I showed up at my specialist's office with a tattoo, he'd freak out. It's not something I have. I've secretly wanted one, and I may yet. And specifically, it would be a tattoo tarot, if it's anything, and probably the moon, because my community name is Moon Raven, and I think with my lodge being called Moonstar Lodge, a moon and possibly a raven are good things. Now, your fourth point, tea. I'm a coffee freak, but if anybody is coming from town, because I live out in the country, if anybody's coming from town, I will beg them to stop and get me an extra large steep tea from a place we call Tim Hortons here in Canada, because I'm about 20 minutes away from the closest one. But we also have a cupboard full of all kinds of herbal teas. And again, my poor beleaguered husband grimaces at the amount of tea we have. So yes, but I am definitely a coffee drinker too. That's how I start my day. So it's with me everywhere. This is a traveling mug for a reason, even if it's just around the house. Crystals. Well, you pointed out a lovely vessel full of crystals. Brian, you want to flip to my table for a moment? I have crystal skulls and crystals here. I have probably 30 crystal pendulums. I make jewelry with crystals. I make healing jewelry with crystals. I have a few more ancestors over here. But if we could pan through our space, you would see we have cabinets behind me. There is a cabinet underneath the salt lamp. That's full of crystals. We've got 2 or 3 fireplaces, and the whole tops are covered with crystals. There are crystals through my entire house. We use them in our shamanic culture for healing and ceremony, and we put them on our regalia. So yeah, baby, I got crystals, and my studio is full of crystal jewelry that I make for that purpose. It's both culturally significant to me, but spiritually, yeah, I'm It's a good thing I'm in a wheelchair now, because if I could get myself out to crystal stores, we'd be broke. You talked in your video about tarot books. Yes, I have books going back through my scholarly career to the 70s for sure. I've got maybe 60 or 70 books and a couple more coming. I don't get in as many books as I used to, but the books I have go back to the early 1900s, and some of these are irreplaceable. Anything by the likes of Joseph Campbell or Barbara Walker, people of that ilk, Rachel Pollack, they're very important, and I hold on to them. I've given a lot of books away in the past few years as we kind of downsize. We're getting up there in years, and so we're trying to downsize, but not my tarot books. They never go out of sight, and they're never loaned because they're too valuable a resource for the work I do. So they're part of this library software that I showed that's on my phone, but it's on my computer and it's on my tablet. I had to get the library software, by the way, just because my collection got so large in the past decade that I would find myself walking into stores and think, don't I already have that? And so, yeah, it was time to do that. You mentioned point 7, a tarot journal. Yes, I have tarot journals, which I add to, and I pull the pages out as I fill them and put them in a larger journal. I've journaled my entire life. We had to do that from university on. So my tarot journal specifically is about spreads. It's not about dreams. You mentioned dreams and other things. I have other journals for that purpose. But yes, I love my tarot journals, and I love that I can keep the materials. It's important, I think, as I move from being just a purchaser and studier of tarot and oracles and cartomancy in general. I prefer now to use my materials as fodder for what I am creating. You mentioned in point 8 your love of shuffling. I used to love shuffling, but the autoimmune disease I have is rheumatoid arthritis, so my hands became very crippled and difficult to work with, which has impacted not just my tarot career, but my studio work, my quilting and sewing and art and beadwork and jewelry making. So I feel very self-centered when I shuffle on camera, so I shuffle before I make my videos for YouTube. It's embarrassing, but I do love to shuffle, and I take very seriously the point that you make. I agree that cardstock, good quality cardstock, when you're making videos, you don't want plasticized stuff that's all glossy and laminated, because of course it reflects right back into the camera. But it's also things like linen stock and cards without borders. I didn't think that was going to be important to me, not having borders, but as a journeyer and doing shamanic journey with my tarot, yeah, I would have to say that's become important. Because of the rheumatoid arthritis, I don't modify my decks, and it isn't just for that reason. I don't modify my decks because as an artist, I know that the person who created the deck intended with the best of their soul a particular message and a particular purpose. So for me to modify their art, to me, seems like a sacrilege. So I don't do it, and if others want to do it, great. That's, you know, you've bought the deck, you do it. But it's not something I do, and I don't even put edgings or anything like that on the cards. But yeah, a good quality 350 GSM, that kind of cardstock, you want something that's going to last. Point 9, you made fairy lights. I'm surprised I don't have fairy lights. And that and the tattoos, I'm not with you there. But possibly Now I should have fairy lights. I don't know. Candles, oh yeah, lots of candles. We use candles for everything, from this to ceremony, and yeah, candles, I'm with you. And I've become kind of, what would be the word, snobbish about candles. If we can get beeswax candles, really good candles without a lot of scent, because we've been in practice doing healing and shamanic work, you know, we've tried to steer away from scented candles because some of our clients and patients are reactive to that. But better, you know, if you've got a soy candle and a beeswax, I'm going to go beeswax candle. The point number 11 that you make, the table that Brian showed earlier. This is on wheels. We can wheel it into the little studio, which used to be our office, but now it's Brian's office, and I have moved my desk out into Tarot Land, which is a joke name for the library. But I have this table on wheels, which we found at the side of the road. You know, somebody was giving it away, and it fits, my wheelchair fits underneath it. So I have this for moving between rooms. I also have another table. I have tables, places I can read cards anywhere in the house, and I have cards I can take. If I want to put them in my purse and keep them safe, I keep little tins and cards in tins, the minis, because that keeps the purse from weighing, you know, 30 pounds. Yeah, so there's lots of places, always have been. And there's times when I've had to be in bed for periods of time. So, you know, having that space that I can move, or have my husband, Brian, move my cards to me has been important. The thing that you didn't mention, and I thought was really funny, were the succulents. I didn't realize how many other readers have succulents, little tiny potted plants on their tables. Of course, when I started my career, YouTube didn't exist, and so I didn't bother with my plants on my tables because I wasn't filming anything. You know, I've only started filming since the pandemic started in the beginning of 2020. We have made films before, you know, but not very many. And if we go out and we are being filmed for an event, of course, I'm not carrying plants. But I love the idea of the little succulents that I've seen on other, possibly cliche tarot readers. So that's the only thing you don't have there on your table that I have. Anyway, Anna, I very much enjoyed your video, and thank you. And I hope this Canadian tarot reader, oh, bandanas. I do have bandanas and turbans that I wind around this bun. I let my hair down for ceremony and it goes way down. I didn't see that you had a turban. Anyway, thank you. Blessings. Miigwech.